So you just go after everyone all the time. And especially when you have a product or a service that is what I'd call industry agnostic. Like anybody can use this. Like our opportunity is immense. This is where the problem begins, is you buy into that and it ends up biting you. Eventually, it works for a while, but it'll only take you so far.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of My Biggest Marketing Mistake, the podcast where we transform costly failures into priceless insights. I'm your host, Kacy Maxwell, and today we're exploring an all too common business decision that has a major impact on one of the core elements of your marketing, and that is your messaging. More on that in a minute. Now, if you haven't listened to our first 4 episodes, I highly recommend going back and giving them a listen. Each one is packed with valuable insights on things like failures in positioning your company, or choosing the wrong marketing strategy, or even the perils of blindly repeating a big success. So make sure to check them out and learn from others' failures. Now, today's quote on failure comes from Maya Angelou. She said, "You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary to encounter the defeats so you can know who you are and what you can rise from and how you can still come out of it." Now, the funny thing about suffering or defeat or failure, it can either ruin us or it can make us stronger. But the only way that it's going to make us stronger is if we take the time to learn from it and not hide it in the closet. And that's what this podcast is all about. So today's marketing mistake focuses on how broad generic messaging can actually stall your growth. Now, it's tempting to believe that your product or service is for everyone, right? The bigger the market, the bigger the opportunity. But often chasing a broad market can have a negative impact and stall both your business and your marketing growth. Now, in a previous episode, we talked about the perils of incorrectly positioning your company. This is, what if you position your company too broadly, right? Positioning is necessarily about how you're different, how you're unique. It's about how you are uniquely positioned to solve your customers' pain points. But what if your customer is everyone? Then you have to find pain points that are common for everybody. And what happens is you get these generalized pain points, and that's going to make its way into your messaging. And the more general that you go, the less that messaging is really going to resonate. But most companies are scared to niche down, right? They feel like they're leaving money on the table. But when you're for everyone generically, you're for no one specifically. And when you're for no one specifically, your marketing and especially your messaging is going to suffer. It's going to end up being vanilla and forgettable. Our story today comes from Cord Sachs, the founder and CEO of Wildsparq, a SaaS leadership development platform, and Fireseeds, an executive recruiting firm. Do you see how those could appeal to anybody? Cord built businesses that serve some of the most recognizable brands in the world. But scaling these businesses came with the painful realization that the serve everybody strategy that worked early on just wasn't sustainable. So in this episode, we're going to unpack Cord's journey of how he realized how broad can work when you're small, but doesn't scale, and how he shifted from focusing on total available market to targeting total winnable market, and how focusing your company can supercharge your sales and marketing. So many good insights coming up right after this.
You want to grow, and you need a marketing partner to help accelerate the process. At Provisions Group, we take a comprehensive approach to marketing and technology to maximize impact and growth. We work alongside you to build and implement a customized marketing plan, and we help you optimize your tech stack so you can operate efficiently and securely. Plus, our tenured fractional advisors are here to partner with you to keep your objectives aligned and create a roadmap to success.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Cord. I'm looking forward to unpacking your story today. I think this is, like most of the episodes that we've done, is something that everybody in business has to deal with and make a decision around. So I really am excited for you to come in and unpack just kind of the way that you approached it, your thought process, et cetera. But as we know, the name of the podcast is about failure, right? Yeah. It's my biggest marketing failure. So we know that it's not going to turn out right, but when we think about failure, so failure is a huge part of leadership. So I'd love to know, kind of like two parts, how do you teach from a leadership perspective around failure in your organization? And then how do you approach failure for the fact that you're able to come on and talk about this on a podcast?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I'll start by saying, when you said we're going to talk a lot about failure, that actually freed me up. Because if you needed a lot of content on where we've hit a home run, especially in this area, I don't think I would have nearly that'd be a very short podcast. So I'm a big fan of failure. I don't think you can grow unless you're pushing right up against the border of success and failure. In fact, when we grow most, when we create what is called the talent code in our brains, is when we're pushed to have to move past the last breaking point. In whatever scenario we're in, whether we're training to be a great hitter in baseball, whether we want to be a great singer, it's always getting to that point where you don't think you can go any further, because you'll fail if you do. But when you take that step, you create actually a gene inside of your brain that adds talent, that increases your capacity to produce. And so I'm a big fan of failure, and I think we need to fail as fast as we can and as often as we can. The only failure is if you don't take the time to learn about the lesson that whatever that scenario, that situation is bringing to bear. Because it's always for our good, I do believe. And it's always going to make us better in the long run. Painful, but better in the long run.
And there's an important point that you said in there. Failure in and of itself is not great. It's not helpful if you just fail and move on, right? It's stopping, unpacking it, understanding everything around that failure to turn it into that learning so that it becomes fuel, not just, something that I got to put in my closet that I don't talk about. So I love the discourse around failure. I want people to continue to share those failures and talk about those failures, not just talk about the theory of failure, which I think people are really comfortable with theory. It's actually talking about that failure portion that they're like, let's not get into the nitty gritty details.
Yeah. But that's what impacts people. Like it takes humility, and it takes a little bit of being okay with vulnerability. But I relate so much more to the other CEO who's telling me about a fault in his life. I connect, I relate, I'm drawn to that kind of leader so much more. One of my pet peeves is to be around someone that thinks perfection is their goal, and they have to be. I don't like spending a lot of time with perfect people, because I'm not one, and I want to be encouraged by other people and where they are in their failures, more so than I want to hear the long laundry list of why they are the greatest gift to this earth.
Well, you're in good company with all the guests and with the host of this podcast in terms of not perfect people who have made plenty of failures. So let's kind of start getting into your story. So kind of set the stage for us. Tell us a little bit about Wildsparq and Fireseeds.
Yeah, so maybe it's helpful to understand that Fireseeds came first. It was a recruiting company that came first, and then 3 years later, Wildsparq was born out of the Fireseeds vision, really, and mission to deliver a service to clients around impacting their culture. And so, I want to make sure that's clear, because I've experienced the same problem with both companies, because our target audience is very, very similar. And so, even as we dive into the problem, it prolonged the problem, because I was in different stages of the two different companies, but still experiencing the same pain. And we'll talk about that pain here in a second.
Yeah. So you're developing these companies. You're trying to you're the original founder, right?
Yep.
So this is an idea. You're seeing a need in the marketplace. You're really starting to say, hey, we actually have something here. And so you started trying to figure out, how do we want to go to market? right? How do we want to take this, and who do we want to take this to? So walk us through a little bit about your process of how you started approaching your go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, and I'm a founder. I am an entrepreneur. Both these businesses were started in the basement. So as many founders, we're pretty good at sales, and we're pretty good at networking. And so much of early stage business development, business growth is the founder just connecting with anybody and everybody they can, and as an ambassador to this new great product, service, fix that they have for the world now, and so you just go after everyone all the time, and especially when you have a product or a service that is what I'd call industry agnostic. Like anybody can use this. Like this is not just for the construction world or the medical field, or like, man, our opportunity is immense. And this is where the problem begins, is you buy into that, and it ends up biting you eventually. It works for a while, but it'll only take you so far.
Yeah, there's a cloud, I think, that happens when you have a product, you care about that product, and you see that it can work for everybody. And so what happens is your market just seems limitless, which is exciting, because that means that I could literally go talk to anybody and everybody. And when you're in the early stage, that's actually great, because that's how you're going out there, right? You're talking to people at your church. You're talking to people when you're at the gym. You're talking to people at the coffee shop. You're just trying to talk to anybody who is going to listen. And because that is your approach, all of a sudden the people that start saying yes early make up a very diverse set. Right? Like there's nothing that is consistent outside of they knew you and they said yes, right? And so you start convincing yourself that this is for everybody. It feeds the fuel.
It feeds the fire. I can continue to grow this limitless with this same philosophy. And then here's the other untruth is that, I'll just teach someone else to do what I'm doing now as a founder. And it never works. I'm not great at passing on what I do very instinctively with the founder's story and narrative and passion and belief. It's very hard to then hope and expect your strategy is going to be, you're just going to get people to do what you do. Doesn't work.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's a one-to-one strategy, right? You typically go and talk to people, and it's like, if I can get them to engage in a conversation, I can get this thing sold, right? And so then if I train this next person, then I'm doubling my output, right? Because they can go and do it as well as I can. Great. Then the strategy is we just need to keep hiring more people to go one-to-one and go get our message out there. And the problem is that it just doesn't scale. You're going to just have to continually hire more and more people. But the problem is when you start to try and make that transition to something that goes after a group of people, it's really hard to target the world, right?
That's right.
You start running into issues like, how do I create a message that resonates with someone if I don't really understand who it's for? It's like if you're for everyone generically, you're for no one specifically. And so talk to me about some of the challenges and issues that you started seeing as you tried to scale that sort of one-to-one approach going after everyone.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you hinted to a very, very practical one, is this: you have to be very, very general with your messaging. Right. And that's advantageous. You don't have to think about all of the variables that would go into learning the specific language of a very specific target. So because you're so broad and you can't focus where you're going to go spend your time. You can't focus your messaging. You can't bring someone else in and say, hey, just go do what I do, with all these other variables in selling a complex sale. It just, like you said, it does not scale. And it starts to get frustrating, because as much as I love selling, and casting vision. Even more than that, I want to grow my company. And you start hitting this ceiling and realizing I'm stuck here and I can't move on unless something changes.
So when you started feeling this pain, was that something that came from the team? What, were your sales guys saying, "Man, this is kind of hard to sell," or did you bring in marketing and marketing was trying to put together some messaging and they were experiencing that? Like where were the warning signs that were coming off that in retrospect you're like, I got to fix this?
No, 100%. First of all, your financial model gets blown up because any founder that's starting to sell, they're pretty good at basic math. And like you just said, if I get another person, I'm just going to take my average and I'm going to pass it on. And so it gets very frustrating quickly when you realize my salespeople can't do what I'm doing. And really they shouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. And so you either double down and kick the can down the road a little more, or you decide, hey, well, let's bring some marketing into the equation. That's what we need now. It's time to start marketing. It's time to start building out that strategy. And then you bring in, usually you start with an agency. At least we did. I always let me try and see what works. But here again, when you're now really unclear of your ICP, because it's so broad, there comes a part of it is we're stubborn too. Like I don't want to believe that I have to do that because of what I have to leave in this unlimited access to anybody I meet that will buy this product if I can just woo them the right way. That's not what marketing does. Marketing is the broad plan it's your cover fire for being able to close deals. But I guess the number one word you're looking for is predictability, and you get none if you stay broad. You can't be predictable. You can't create a predictable strategy and success and predictable numbers and predictable close rates until you hone in and you limit your variables so you can get focused.
There's two different P words that I'm hearing: predictability versus possibility. 100%. And what I mean by that is there's something in there that whenever the entire world or anything is an option, saying, I think we should focus here, sounds like you're saying, I want to not do any of this other stuff. I don't want any of that revenue, and we never want it, and we shouldn't do it. And so as a business owner, when you hear that, you're like, you want to lose money? You want to, I understand currently my conversion rate between what we're doing in the world. And so now you want to take it down to this smaller niche subset. If I get that same conversion rate of that, we're toast, right? And that is there's this fallacy of general that the world is your oyster, right? That I can go out and get anybody, and now you're telling me I can't get anybody by focusing in that area. When obviously we're going to get to the point where you made the decision to swap there, but what got you over that hump to say, you know what, we're gonna have to shift our strategy. This strategy is limiting us to the point where I'm not going to be able to grow, and I probably should have made this shift 5, 6, 7 months ago, and ideally, when we started, right? How did you get there?
Well, I mean, for founders, you need a lot of pain to override the optimism, right? And so pain is always, again, pain and pain is failure. So you realizing that you're failing, you're realizing this won't move the needle, you're realizing it won't scale, it won't grow. And for any entrepreneur that's growing and has a company that begins to take off, because it does, but you have to shift gears in order to get to the next level. It's very similar to a scenario like you have to trade up. There are certain people you hire early on in your organization that help you in the grassroots of figuring everything out. But you get to a place where you want to scale and become predictable and have predictable revenue and predictable projections, so you can start investing in more and more of your growth. And you know where you put $1 in and you get $1.50 out. You have to know that it's going to take time to come in and work on the ICP and really hone it down and say no to all of these other organizations, to look into your client base and really be honest with who do we not want to work with again. To really be honest, it's hard with who's not profitable. So early stages, I mean, understanding what is a profitable deal as you look at the lifetime value of the deals, you look at the cost of acquisition, and all those things. But it's business is pretty simple. You realize pretty quickly that this is not profitable. But so many times we hang on to those clients way too long because they're just a part of the sum of that old strategy. And the thing you need to do is carve them out, cut them out. So you have to not only focus your strategy now, you have to say no to a lot of clients that are bringing in cash flow. They're not profitable, but and a lot of times we don't even want to look at the profitability of them because they are paying the bills for the next month. But yet they're keeping you from going to the next level. Does that resonate?
It does. It does. And ICP, choosing who your target is and what, in an ideal scenario, the way that I like to think about ideal customer is, especially for the problem that your product or services is a solution for, right? The ideal customer, once they hear who you are, know what your product does, there's this sense of relief of like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. It so fits my need versus a person on the outside ring of that are like, oh yeah, that would be helpful. I'd love to hear how you guys worked through that process to go like from everybody down to a specific ICP. But the thing that I want to call out is that I think that some companies think they do this when they create personas. And so I'm a fan of ICP, I'm a fan of personas, but there's a interesting thing that I've noticed as I've worked with more and more companies. When I see their personas, it's not really a persona. It's a set of data points that still applies to nearly everybody. Like they feel like because they've given ranges of things, they're like, oh yeah, we work from customers from 10 to 500 million and from 10 employees to 1,000 employees. And you're like, look, I've limited it down, but you're like, that's so huge. Like the problems that they face and all is so vast and so different. These personas are unhelpful. Like, and at worst, they're actually stopping you from creating good messaging because you're thinking that it's going to apply to everybody. So talk me through this process of how you said, all right, we're going after everybody, to say we're gonna niche down and we're gonna go after a certain group.
Yep. Yeah, and I think when you start to see, not only is my own momentum dying because I can't scale my methodology, you start to see your sales team and the morale of your sales team, the momentum that maybe they had or have never had, continue to decrease, and you realize I have to do something. So one of the things that was the light bulb and aha for me was change. It was really a mindset that we really then unpacked into a very pragmatic strategy. But the mindset is I had to get over and really learn to devalue total available market and redefine the focus to a total winnable market and very different. And so in order to get to really understanding what's your total available market, well, it's who could buy, right? But the total winnable market, you have to ask, where have I lost and where am I winning? So where have I lost deals is where you got to start. It's kind of very, 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 it's the easiest place. Where am I losing deals? Why did I lose that deal? And then where am I gaining deals and losing money? So we talked about where are there deals that aren't profitable? Because that's a big key, is you've got to create margin to be able then to go and begin to answer the question, where are we winning? Why are we winning? And what's happening? What are all the variables when we win? And then you push into a very, very specific group. Usually you've got you've got pockets of momentum. And so you've got to push in and say, where do I have the most momentum? might not be where you want to go, but a lot of times if you keep the old mentality of what it's total available market, you'll go always to the place you have momentum where you feel like you have the greatest market share opportunity. Whereas the most pragmatic thing you could do is go to the smallest place that has the narrowest niche and really own it, and really craft your messaging, and really give your salespeople the opportunity to add a lot more personalization and industry language. And so the smaller you get, it's the counter. It's like the smaller you get in your mindset of where I go target has the most room to grow and expand, and you knock out a large portion of the target market, and then you shift, and then you pivot. What's the next? Where's the next area I had momentum, but not the most momentum. It can't be where do I have the most momentum, because that's usually a very broad. You're still staying way broad, and you're not niching down. Niching down is where you can get vertical momentum. It's where you get referrals. It's where people are talking about this. And they are not just great recruiters. They are the best recruiters in the world for the construction industry. Or they're the best, even more narrow, they're the best recruiters in the world for the dirt industry, for the civil moving dirt industry. That's who we're going to become the best in the world for, and we're going to hang our hat and build a name. And everybody in that subsector of construction is going to say you have to use Fireseeds, and so you get finally a little bit of predictability, not nearly at the scale that you want. But you realize you can build on it. If you can do it once, you can do it twice. If you can do it twice, you can do it 10 times.
The visual that comes to my mind when I hear you talk about that, and it's true of marketing, it's true of business. As you're growing, I do the visual of spinning plates, right? You're going, I'm going to go after this group, and so you start spinning that plate, and then I'm going to go after this one, and you start spinning. Eventually, you have all of these plates spinning, and so the mentality is, I just need to keep all of these spinning, right? I need to divert my energy and time. And when this one starts to slow down, I need to shift my resources to go over there and spin it. But what happens is you're never able to get any of them spinning fast because you only have a limited amount of time and resources to devote. And so the more plates you put in the air, whether it's who you're targeting or the different channels that you're going for marketing, the more times you're trying to triage or, hey, we got to fix this, you're necessarily neglecting a different area. And so it's interesting because, and again, the reason I love that analogy is that the pain of letting a plate fall and smash on the ground feels like a lot. Right. And it's almost that fear of that plate falling that will make you okay with everything just spinning a little slowly. Right. And so
but
if
it's
you
not one plate that has to fall, it's usually 3 or 4.
Right.
And that's super scary because now
Yes.
I'm gonna put all my eggs in this one basket. Yep. And you're gonna give it all you got, and you're gonna go create some viral momentum it's gonna explode your business. And then once you've done it in one niche and one vertical, you can take those principles and do it in another.
Yeah. So tell me about the team's response to this. So they, your sales team, you're starting to see momentum slow down, some frustration. I'm assuming marketing is struggling to say, how do we create this compelling messaging for this very general product? You make the decision after maybe a couple years to niche this down, and you roll it out to your team. What was their response?
Anytime you help your people win, you gain a ton of momentum. But it's not just now that we're closing deals because we have a focused target market and direct messaging that speaks to the industry. It's your salespeople, those that engage with the client. They get to actually really push in to the most specific pain points with their customers, with their clients. And there's nothing better when you know you're not just selling them something. You haven't gotten just great at closing some maybe shot of helping you in the future. But when you know, like, I'm gonna solve their largest problem. I'm gonna help them overcome where they are, and you get to add true value. I mean, this is where I hire salespeople that also see the purpose of making the life better of those that they're selling to. In whatever context, if you can make their life better because of what you're offering, then and you got to search. It depends on who you're talking to, but nonetheless, they feel a sense of purpose. They feel a sense of satisfaction in that. And there's nothing that brings you back to work knowing that, man, I'm selling, I'm winning, I'm hitting my numbers, I'm making more money, and I'm actually improving the lives of the people that have been put in front of me to have an impact.
I love that you said that. That is, I mean, that's the heart of Provisions Group. We've got wheat all over the place. And that comes from a sense of, hey, we want to do and plant seeds and do good and help people win at work. And we know that if we do that, there's going to be a harvest that we can reap, right? And so I love just talking to other people and other organizations that create that culture of like, hey, we're going out and we're actually helping people, right? We're making their lives better. And it's in a specific thing. Like you're growing leaders, we're helping with marketing and technology, but we're just out there to make the world a little bit better, which is just really cool. I just kind of wanted to call that out as we had talked before this and kind of came to that realization. I was like, that's a really cool thing when you see that in business. So thinking about that shift, so you guys made the decision to shift this down, to niche down. You're starting to see, like, what can you talk about some of the effects that had on the marketing? You kind of talked a little bit about the sales side of closing more deals, talking to more ICP. Did you see this shift in metrics and marketing hitting in a different way on the marketing side?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you get two things in this scenario. Number one, you get to take the 5 sales reps that usually all had a different target, and they were all broad and they were all isolated, and you get to bring them all into one focused area together. All right, so this is going to happen. Two things are going to come out of this. Number one, you've got community for the first time in sales, which is a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun to sell together than it is to be on an island and wondering why I can't move the needle in this certain sector, and I can't talk to any of the other sales guys about it because they're in a completely different sector. So when you niche down, when you've got a target, your ICP's clear, it's as small as you can make it at first. You have a team focused on it, and they become the ones that start creating your marketing collateral. They're the ones now that can collaborate and start looking at the data and A/B testing what's working, the messaging, and they're bouncing that all off each other. You're creating more momentum for them, and you're creating what you need now to then build out your marketing strategy. And so instead of trying to hire someone from the outside to come in and walk you through your ICP and then tell you how you need to sell to this new ICP, you've got very qualified sales folks. They're not marketers, but they can do a lot of that early work and heavy lifting for you, so you know where to start spending that initial dollar from a marketing standpoint.
Well, in marketing, messaging should always be informed from the customer, right? You want to hear the words they're saying and then say that back to them, right? Which is really, really interesting that often whenever you're trying to get pain points from a customer, whenever your customers are all over the place, it feels like there's no common pain points. Right? Because your customers aren't there's no similarity. And so
That's right.
They necessarily have different problems. And so sales team can often convince you based on their customers that they're like, there's not a common thing, or it's this super high level generic problem that everybody in the world has, like, oh, taxes, or oh, they need to not go over their budget, or oh, they need, like, it's these very generic things, and then you create messaging around generic problems, and it's like, hey, we can help you with those problems, and people are like, I never go search for help with that problem. I search for the things that are below this that are specific to me. And so being able to understand that ICP helps you get that messaging and be able to target in a way that you just can't without it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And pinpoint the real pain, right? And I mean, the real place where you're going to have, again, impact in their life, in their organization, and the impact they can have through growth and expansion and all of that. So, yeah, it's not a small thing. It moves the needle in so many ways, but it is a huge investment. It's a huge investment of time and focus, and a lot of times strategy shift that some need a lot of pain to get to.
So as we start closing up here, what would be the advice that you would give to someone kind of going after a very broad market?
Yeah, it's I would say, if you can, don't build the bad habit. Like, learn this now, go start your next company, and just niche down and find that very unique place where you can start selling. And then do the same things, just you're going to spend a little more time finding out where those people are. And you're going to go to those people, and you can still do your founders-based sales strategy. You're just doing it, and that means you have to say no. That means you have to really be disciplined with your time and your focus. But that's what I'd say. If you haven't drank the Kool-Aid of total available market and why there's an advantage for that, and we're a diversified portfolio, right? When the market shifts, I've got any kind of industry I can pivot to. You got to get this mindset and these falsehoods out of your system, and then you've got to make a commitment to go deep, to go niche. Again, you're probably going to have to take some hard looks at what makes you money in the organization, not what brings cash flow. Because, and I haven't, one of our larger clients early on, I won't mention their name because we're still serving them and serving them well now. But we had to hit pause, and I had to tell my sales AE that had a $700,000 vertical. I had to say, you cannot sell any longer. You have no budget for this vertical. We've found out that the cost of acquisition, when you compare the lifetime value of this client, we're losing money. But I got $700,000 of cash flow that I've got to replace. Sometimes you've got to allow your numbers to really drive you to do things that ultimately in the long run will be hard. A step of faith. Where am I going to have and come up with $700,000 to meet my current budget, my current needs, and everything that I've gotten projected for? So there's a trade-off that's going to happen, and you can't. We didn't drop the client immediately. But we started saying no at a certain level, which cut our deal flow down in about in half. And so we increased our price, and we got it profitable, but it meant we had to cut. So I didn't take a $700,000 loss. I took a $350,000 loss. And I thought, hey, if we put that kind of attention and focus, and 3 more AEs are going to go here, I think we can see a return on that.
Yeah, and it depends on what kind of pain you want to experience, right? You either take the pain of doing that, or the pain of potentially never being able to scale and banging your head against the wall and continuing to do the same things over and over and over, or you take the hit, look at your data, hone in, and because what is going to happen is, if you're not in that data and you keep doing that, you're going to start spending a bunch of money that you have no idea. Right? And marketing is probably going to be that place where you're going to spend a lot of money and you're not going to see the return that you think should come. And you're going to think marketing doesn't work for us.
That's right. Oh yeah.
And you're like, that's not true. That type of generic high-level marketing, correct. That's not going to work for you. But if you're going to niche down and say, these are the people that we can help, this is the group of people that we are uniquely positioned to solve their problems, then all of a sudden you will get such efficiency and be able to have marketing which is the one-to-many approach, right? All of a sudden that starts working because it can go into the right places. It can put you and your logo in the right places and then get those people to talk to your sales team in a way that's sort of like this, hey, let's do a Super Bowl ad, right? Great, everybody in the world can't see it.
The crazy thing is it allows you, guess what, to unlock a little more exposure to your total available market, right? So you got to die to it. You got to cut it off. You got to stop believing in it and then transfer that belief into, you know what, if I do invest, it won't happen overnight, but 6, 9, 12 months from now, I'll be able to address that total market. Or not, maybe not all of it. You're probably never going to go back to all of it, but a larger portion of it. You don't have to give it all up. You don't have to totally forsake. Now we can go broad because our service reaches a lot of, but you can't do that in sales. You can do it in marketing.
I love it. Well, thanks again for coming on and unpacking this common issue that people struggle with. And I hope that the pain that obviously you experienced and have moved on is a great example for people to go, you know what, maybe I don't need to wait that long. Maybe I need to go dig into my numbers. Maybe I need to look at my messaging and say, hey, marketing team, why is this messaging so broad? Because they'll probably say, because it has to be, right? So there's so many good pieces of thinking and strategy, and both on the business, sales, and marketing side. So thank you for taking the time to unpack that. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Awesome. I hope it does. And again, if you need someone that fails a lot and to give you content around failure, I'm your guy. But it has made me a better leader, and I've grown a ton because of it. So,
well, thanks, and we wish you the best at Fireseeds and Wildsparq. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Kacy.
Thanks again for listening to the My Biggest Marketing Mistake podcast. We hope you got a lot of valuable insights that you can apply to your business today. And we're not done. We've got a lot more great stories of failure coming your way. So be sure to follow us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, or check us out on YouTube. And be sure to leave us a rating and review because it helps a lot. Now, here's what's coming up on our next episode.
This was a mistake, whether, I shouldn't have gone at all, whether I shouldn't have booked 3 before I knew how 1 was going to go, whether I shouldn't have gone all in to try and make it successful, where I shouldn't have gone in with so little information and strategy that would have helped me. But it's a mistake I've learned a ton from.